John Lennon, co-leader of rock group The Beatles, and Keith Richards, best known as the guitarist and songwriter for the rock band Rolling Stones. Two sides of the same coin, they became figureheads of a cultural revolution, albeit in their own unique ways. Their names etched in rock and roll's Mount Rushmore. Their impact on music and culture remains undeniable. Despite their contrasting styles, a mutual respect bloomed. There were stories of late-night jams, shared jokes at industry parties. Their connection ran deeper than music. They challenged norms, broke boundaries, and redefined what it meant to be a voice of a generation. On the evening of the 8th of December, 1980, John Lennon had been brutally gunned down in front of his New York City apartment. The killer, Mark David Chapman, was an American Beatles fan who was envious and enraged by Lennon's lifestyle, alongside his 1966 comment that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. Chapman planned the killing over several months and waited for Lennon at the Dakota. As Lennon approached the entrance of the building, Chapman fired 5 bullets from a revolver, 4 of which hit Lennon in the back. Lennon was rushed to Roosevelt Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival at age 40. News spread like wildfire, a gut punch to millions. A worldwide outpouring of grief ensued. Crowds gathered at Roosevelt Hospital and in front of the Dakota. Among those devastated by the news was Keith Richards, the iconic guitarist of the Rolling Stones. The news struck a chord far more personal. Lennon's murder wasn't just a tragedy, it was an attack on a friend. The loss of his friend hit Keith like a thunderbolt. The news reports, the endless speculation meant little in the face of raw, unfiltered grief. Richards, known for his tough guy persona, was forced to confront a loss that cut deep. The man who seemed invincible, who had stared down his own demons, was now grappling with the loss of a kindred spirit. The rock and roll world mourned, a community united in grief. Keith recounted years later in an interview, "I was just down the road when he got blown away with my shooter going, 'I'll get the killer.'" Keith's mind raced back to the early days, a time when he and John would often find themselves jamming backstage at concerts, their spirits intertwined by their shared love for music. Those sessions were filled with laughter, creativity, and an unspoken understanding that only true friends could share. "John was a good friend of mine. I miss him," Keith said, his eyes reflecting the pain of a friendship cut short. He had a large heart. As he continued to reflect on those days, Keith remembered John's infectious enthusiasm and boundless energy. Whether it was an impromptu jam session or a deep conversation about life and music, John had a way of making every moment feel significant. The two rock legends would spend hours discussing everything under the sun, from the intricacies of songwriting to the philosophies that guided their lives. In the aftermath of Lennon's murder in 1980, rumours swirled. Some whispered of Richards, fueled by grief and rage, seeking his own brand of justice. The image fit his outlaw persona, the brooding rock star, haunted by his friend's death, disappearing into the shadows. Stories, likely apocryphal, circulated through the rock and roll underground. A meeting with dangerous men, a name whispered in a smoky bar, a promise of retribution. The silent avenger, the loyal friend, forever bound to Lennon, even in death. John Lennon's death was a profound loss to the music world, a void that could never truly be filled. But for Keith Richards, it was also the loss of a dear friend, a kindred spirit whose presence had enriched his life in immeasurable ways. In the years that followed, Keith often found himself revisiting those memories, cherishing the moments they had shared and lamenting the ones they would never have. In the end, the story of Keith Richards and John Lennon is one of friendship, music, and the enduring power of the human spirit. And as long as there are songs to be sung and stories to be told, the spirit of John Lennon will continue to inspire and uplift those who were fortunate enough to know him and those who continue to be touched by his music.